flight yesterday. Actually, my wife and I, the lovely Queen Charmel, we were supposed to been on a 6:30 flight in the morning, man. I said, baby, I got everything set. Everything's good. You know what I mean? I already called the airport. We upgrade first class all the way, baby. Jump in the ride, right? You know what I mean? We get on 45. We hit some traffic right there before 610. I was like, man, hit this track. That DDP? No, that ain't DDP. And I'm like, man, you know, wait a minute. Now, let me look. I look in the back seat, right? Baby, I forgot my suit.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
no,
oh.
no, man. I'm like, I'm upset now. I got to pull over on Broadway and flip it around. I'm like, man, it's literally, we got an hour and 15 minutes at that point to get to the
Oh,
to the
no
airport.
way.
And I'm like, ain't no way we gonna make it. But Charmel, she's like, Mama, let me call Mom real quick, and I'll get Mom to bring your suit, and she'll meet us at 45. We'll catch the Beltway. We might can still make it, right?
It's a good plan.
I say, all right, that's a good plan. So that's the same thing I said. So I flipped it around, boom. Mom meet us, and by the time we get there, I'm deflated at that time. I'm like, baby, we ain't gonna make it. I said, let's just call this in, and I said, because if I drive to the airport, I'm gonna be speeding. I can have a wreck. Anything can happen. I said, let's just get on the next flight. Next flight leaves at 11:55. They get us there at 2:50. You know what I mean? The party don't start till 5. I say, so that's good. But we good. We could do that. Call the airport. Talk to the agent. She was such a nice lady. She hooked it right up. Boom, first class all the way, Mr. Huffman. And I'm like, cool. Couple of minutes later, you know what I mean, as we're, riding in, Charmel's phone go off as a message. The flight has been delayed 1 hour, so I'm like, oh, man, you know what I mean, here we go, So we still head to the airport, get there, whatnot. Flight end up getting moved up a little bit, so we get to Atlanta probably, I don't know, probably 3:45, 4 o'clock. So we still got to go through that Atlanta traffic, and I'm talking about Atlanta traffic right now, baby. Oh, dog, I'm talking about it's like Bangkok. You know what I mean? If you ever been to Bangkok, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? But we got through the traffic, jumped in the HOV lane. You know what I mean? We weren't supposed to be in the HOV, but we did it anyway. We rolled. We got to the party. I don't know, maybe 45 minutes after everything started. You see Ric Flair. Everything. First day, I'm looking for the Nature Boy. I was at this nice little restaurant where had all kind of little deals where you can have a banquet over here, you can have a party over here, you can have whatever you want. You know what I mean? And some nice food at the same time. But I walk in the party, man. Me and the Queen. We get there, and what's crazy, let me back up in the story a little bit. I got dressed, for the party because I didn't want to go to the hotel. I got dressed at the National Car, rental car restaurant.
And you're putting on your Booker T custom suit,
I'm
right?
putting on everything, man. I'm getting ready to go out, man. The suit's so tight I couldn't wear it on the airplane. But we get there, man, and it's star-studded, man. It's one of those things to where, guys that I haven't seen in years, like Jimmy Crockett, of Crocker Promotions back in WCW.
He was there?
Oh, yeah, man, you know what I mean?
How'd he look?
You know what? He looked great. And what was crazy was I looked to my left, and Jimmy Crockett is there, and I reach over and shake his hand. I wanted to give him a hug real bad, but I ain't want to, strip out like that. But I shook his hand, and he goes, Jimmy Crockett. And I go, I know who you are. I think he didn't know that I knew who he was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I know who you are, man. Jimmy Crockett, man. One of my favorite people. It was one of those deals. I actually saw Joe Gomez. I'm gonna put up a picture of Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez was a guy back in WCW, and he was still hot, man. He was still hot because he told a story, come on, 30 years ago almost, and he's still telling this story, right? I see Joe Gomez. What was crazy, though, Ric Flair was telling a story, right? Ric Flair was telling a story. He's talking about certain guys, he's talking about Joe Gomez, and like Joe Gomez, man, he was the guy. Joe Gomez, the guy you could, drop him in Japan. The first time there, and within 5 minutes, he'll know where all the strip bars is and all the bells and whistles. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, that's Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez ran a few clubs down there in Florida, man, and he was a guy that had all the ins and outs, and he wanted to be a wrestler at the same time. So he was a good-looking guy, man, real good-looking guy. You go back and pull Joe Gomez up, he's a good-looking guy, But he was doing this like Antonio Banderas like gimmick on WCW back in the day, and I'm sitting at home and I told this. I was talking to a reporter, and I told him the story one time, and Joe Gomez got hot about it when I finally met him, and I'm sitting on my sofa and I'm watching this guy, Joe Gomez, before I ever started wrestling, before I ever took a lesson. And me and my brother, we watching it, and I'm like, Joe Gomez came out. We watched him wrestle. And I'm like, man, wait a minute. Me and my brother, I look at my brother, I said, man, if this guy can do it, I know we can do it, because I can do it better than this guy already. Just before we were thinking about going to wrestling school. And I told that story, and then I met Joe Gomez, and he told me about that story, And I was so embarrassed, man, that I said that about Joe Gomez, but I always respected this dude, man. He was always well respected in the business, man, and got a chance to see him, and Dennis Rodman.
How was Dennis?
Oh,
Dennis
man.
has had an interesting year.
And Dennis was sober, man. You know what I mean? He didn't. He wasn't. Over the top Dennis like normal. Normally Dennis is. Swinging from the chandelier. He's the life of the party. He's the loudest guy in the room. But it seemed like it was a more subdued, a more docile Dennis Rodman. I don't know. Maybe these guys getting older. You know what I mean? They're slowing down a little bit. But he still had the feathers on and whatnot. He had the. He still had the Dennis Rodman, swag going. So Charles Barkley, got a chance to hang out with Chuck.
How was Charles Barkley?
Oh,
He's
man,
one of my favorite
He's
people.
cool people, man. He came up from behind, to tap me on the shoulder, boom. Gave me
Had you met Charles before?
Oh, man, it's good people, man. Yeah, we had him on the show. Remember?
We had never had Charles Barkley on the show.
Yeah, we did. Wait a minute, no, that wasn't Charles Barkley. What's that Charles Barkley?
We never had. If we had Charles Barkley on the show, we had Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille O'Neal. We're going to get him on the show.
Can we please do that?
Actually, we're going to get him on the show. We was talking about all kind of stuff, but he didn't want to see me. He wanted to see Charmel. So
don't
he came.
blame him.
No. That's the way it is with Charles. I was at the airport down here one day, and my back was turned. Who come walking up behind me? Charles Barkley. Hey man, what's going? No, we got that kind of relationship actually. But he was there. I tell you, it's just Chris Jericho. He was there.
I saw y'all. There was a really cool photo, and I wanted to get the story behind it. There was a picture of you, AJ Styles, Shane McMahon, Chris Jericho, and Evander Holyfield. Very interesting picture.
Yeah. That was a good shot right there. Evander Holyfield, of course. He's been on the show as well. And it was crazy. Is when boxers around, people still always, hey man, don't mess with him, man.
Don't mess
hey
with
man, such and such want to fight you. You know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it was cool. Vander and the Edge. Was in the house. That one photo was iconic too.
Yeah, that was a good one.
With Ric Flair, you with Chris Jericho and Charlotte in the back, and me and Edge. Me and Edge, we was just there talking. We was talking about the transition. As far as him going into acting and totally detoxing and getting away from, the wrestling business. Him, being married with Beth, Phoenix, and having a kid and having a little girl. And having to try to balance that and still, be Edge, be himself. You know what I mean? It is so cool, man. The dynamic, how it's happened. Him, and myself being able to totally, transform to something different, totally go into a different realm and see, life as it is, not what it was. So many people, still living, in that time zone, in that little bubble. They don't want to get out of it. But, I was talking to Edge about, this new role that he got on Viking, that he's second season, actually, he said. And he was showing me some of the photos, man, and he's so, dialed into it. He said, man, I could be, in a cabin, you know what I mean? And, nothing but snow around, and I'm at peace, So many guys in this business still, rave and live for that pop and the glory just one more time, you know what I mean? So we were just sitting there talking about that, Ric Flair,
How was Rick? I mean, he's turning 70 years old.
Let me tell you something, man. Ric Flair is like a teddy bear, man. Ric Flair was telling stories about, being in a plane crash, breaking his back, going through so many trials and tribulations, and, to be, 70 years old, he shouldn't be here right now. He was talking about that, how he really shouldn't be here. But to have gotten to this point, to have so many friends, there for him that night. And he was talking about, man, then they had to charter a jet, to get all those guys in. That's how many friends, came from so many, different places just to, pay homage. Jeff Hardy, Triple H, Conrad, Dutch show with Bruce Pritchard. He was there as well. It was just so many guys that came.
Well, Ric Flair's actually Conrad's father-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so many people there, yeah.
I heard even Jamie Foxx was FaceTiming.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx FaceTimed him, so I tell you, man, Knobs and Sags.
Are they gonna ever rent the room out to wrestlers again?
No, I'm gonna tell you. No, I'm gonna tell you, the Knobs and Sags, man. They wasn't totally over the top, man, but they was drinking, it was partying. It was cool, man. It was so cool to be in a room. So many major players who have done so much in the business as well as for the business. For me to be a part of that, it was pretty cool. For me to get an invite from the Nature Boy Ric Flair's wife to, celebrate Ric Flair's 70th birthday. I just hope and pray that I live to, be 70 years old, first and foremost. But to be able to have a party like that, even though I got a party coming up here in a couple of days. Actually, we'll see how that turns. I don't think that many people are going to fly in for it. We ain't there yet. But to see it, man, it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful, man. Had all of his daughters there with him as well.
Yeah, I saw Charlotte was there, and the rest of the Flair clan, the Flair family. Who was one of the favorite conversations you had there? You talked about seeing Chuck, Evander. Did you have a long convo with Chris Jericho? Did he like your comments about him being Mick Jagger?
Oh man, that's some of the first things we talked about was Mick Jagger, you know what I mean, that comment. As well as we talked about AEW, we talked about,
What was he saying?
That it's great, just like what we've been saying. It's great to have something, an alternative. It's not a competition. It's an alternative, you know what I mean? You may not want to watch, this game that's on this channel, but you might want to watch that one. You know what I mean? Both games are going to get good ratings because that's how many people it is in the world. So to be able to have an alternative is great. To be able to have so many new young talent be seen and be able to make their legacy put it down as far as how they want to leave it. That's really what it's all about. I don't think it's about competing. I mean, Chris Jericho's at the party, Triple H at the party, and we all sit there talking together. It ain't no heat or any animosity or anything like that. I really think it's enough room to go around, and that's what Chris was talking about, man, as far as what he's bringing to the table as well, from a backstage perspective, and really try to push the thing to a dimension to where we have not seen in the wrestling business perhaps ever. And that right there, when you do it that way, you never know how big it's going to get. We talked about, how TNA had, so much momentum, back in the day. But we actually had actually, I wouldn't call it a conflict or anything like that. But he thought TNA, the reason they didn't stick around because they didn't have the money to promote and advertise the way they have now with AEW. But I think TNA did have the resources to actually do that. I just think they had the wrong people in place to actually, delegate those duties. Because I know I got paid, $10,000 for a commercial that they never used. Okay.
So they had some ducats.
So they had some money. I don't know where that 10 grand came from, but I know where it went. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say I beg to differ. As far as that go, I know in smaller towns, you know what I mean. You got to have a street team sometime, even if you don't have the budget. And when you don't do that, you're never going to get to a place where you are going to have a budget to be able to do those things. And I just think they dropped the ball in that aspect. But talking to them about that right there, talking to them about what the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, bring to the table, because a lot of people say Kenny Omega, it's not all about his wrestling, man. They say this guy's a true genius, as far as the game goes. They everybody say Kenny Omega, man. He knows his stuff, man. This is the guy. We're gonna see. We're gonna see exactly what these guys bring to the table. But I tell you, man, kicking it with Hurricane Helms.
Oh, I saw Helms was there.
Yeah, I tell you, me and Helms, we started talking, man. We started talking, fighting. You know what I mean? So the first thing we started talking about was what went down last week, because we both got it wrong. You know what I mean? Paul Felder, went out there, and got the win over Vic. Kane went out there. We both said Kane was going to come out there and out-wrestle that big, mean, nasty African. You know what I mean? And it didn't happen, so we both got it wrong on that night. But Helms is one of those guys that, we started talking about, some of the... You know what? Helms would be the craziest conversation, but because when Helms and I get together, we start talking about stuff that I said back in the day. Like, it was something... we was talking about somebody, and and my quote was, "You know what? I always never did like that MF." Now,
I always never did.
And Helms look over at me and go, "Always never did." Okay. So. And we talked about a few other things too that I can't talk about on the air, but always good to get with Hurricane Helms, man. Sugar Shane Helms, man, a good friend of mine. I'm so glad to see him back in WWE. So glad to see him at the party. Actually, the one guy who texted me this morning was Shane Helms, and he said, "Good to see you and the Queen, my friend." So that's the type of guy he is, man. Hey guys,
happy birthday to the Nature Boy. Man.
Happy birthday to the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Like I told him last night, many, many more. Hey guys, it's Heated Conversation. Stick around. Next week, same place, same time. We out.